Hello, it's me, Jiska. I have yet another replay of Lucifer for you guys, and I've got a little bit of a story to tell before I begin. A new player to fighting games once asked me what the most important skill for a beginner to have was, and the thing is that if you have important beginner skills, then you aren't really a beginner. So the answer that I had to give was the ability to formulate meaningful questions about the game that you're playing. It's really easy to approach games that you're learning and not know what to do. That's really common. You don't know what's important. You don't know what to look for. There's a lot of stuff that's not going on the screen that you can't look at, and you don't know why it's not happening. So you have to understand when to look at a situation, and you have to understand how to look at a situation and pull out meaningful questions to ask about it. If you're losing all the time, like me, you can ask, why am I losing? But that's not really a meaningful question. But I mentioned that I had a bunch of games on Lucifer. I won one of them and I lost two of them. And I'm pretty sure that the reason that I lost both of the games was because I did not effectively control the center here. I could go over those games and I could look at how I didn't control the center, but I'm not sure that would be as meaningful as me just looking at a replay of better players than me and taking a look at how they transition their capture phase into how they transition their early game capture phase into a mid game where they're contesting these properties without giving up too much space on their sides. So that's the question that I'm setting out for myself today. So with that, we'll get on to this replay between Starduster playing Grimm and Raahka playing Jake on Lucifer, with a special attention to detail on how they are going to play the middle of this game and the middle of this map. This is pretty normal, I think. Both of them moved forward. This is mirrored. This is... well, we'll have to see what Raahka does. Going for the early airport. I did not do, I don't believe. Okay, so this isn't mirrored at all anymore. Starduster sent another infantry forward, looking to go for either this city or the command tower. Raahka moved an infantry back. I suppose that's because the first turn advantage counter infantry is already on this city, and he can have one of these two go into the center while this infantry takes this back cap. This is the same. Raahka does not opt to go for the early airport. He's going to have this infantry capture this city, it seems like. Okay, so they're one turn apart on the airport idea. Raahka has a more forward-facing infantry on his defensive side. Starduster has a tank, an aggressive tank. Raahka has the funds to counter it. And this is important, that the infantry that Raahka had captured the base on the aggressive side goes to the command tower, while the infantry that immediately succeeded it, that went for this city, the 1214 city, and on the other side, what city is that? That's the 86 city. That infantry goes towards the center, so I'm expecting to see that next turn from Starduster. This is something also I didn't consider, is that this infantry that captures the defensive side city that's super close to your HQ can also transition into the center. I know that I never made this play, and I definitely should look to. This is probably better than trying to contest this. They both have infantry on the outside. On this very outside city, it's very forward facing. And it's a really strange, this is a really strange city. It's not easy to, well, it's not especially difficult to get troops back there, but it is very far forward, so these mountains are really, this group of like 5 mountains on each side is really well thought out. It's really cool. Neither of them are on top of their ports yet. And it looks like Raahka is moving towards this city, and I'm assuming Starduster will do the same thing. Yeah, and basically everything is, they're using pretty similar capture phases. The biggest difference, I think, being when each got their airport. Starduster didn't use the early airport. Maybe will next turn. This is also really good positioning. I don't think that I abused this at all. Maybe I did, but I would have done it from the infantry that captured this city first. But being able to go on both of these is significant. This is so far forward that Raahka gets this for basically nothing. This is free real estate, as the saying goes. Okay, so this tank is going to defend Starduster's cap on the left side. They're both going to get their center properties that are contested in the middle, the ones that I'm concerned about. But neither of them really seem to be super concerned about this port, which is just really interesting to me. I suppose that it's easier to get these two and then go back for the port, especially because this is within walking distance, and if you don't take this first, then someone will certainly come in and snatch it out from under you. This positioning is really interesting. Doesn't feel, well, okay, so this one can go into the woods, which is good enough. This tank here, I don't know why it's positioned like this. I suppose that in case, I can't imagine Starduster wants to contest here, but I suppose this does defend it, unlike this position. I think that the city would as well, but being able to move far forward is good, probably. I suppose this does everything that Raahka wants it to do, and that's why it's there. This is like a critical mass of infantry. I think that I saw this in the game with Jax Raptor that I went over. Jax Raptor just got like a critical mass of infantry and like 1 mech, and then just moved them all forward onto the base. And that's sort of what I tried to do in my games, but I think that I didn't understand how to control the rest of the map, or I didn't understand why that strategy was as effective as it was. Being able to transition your mid-game infantry over here naturally is a skill that I haven't developed. This is good positioning where Starduster moved this infantry forward so that the counterattack is onto this tank is limited. This is still really stuffy though. Like this doesn't seem all that good for Starduster. If Raahka gets the first hit on this tank, that's a Grimm tank, so it's going to hurt. And then And then what? Is it going to move forward? That doesn't seem all that good. How's this tank going to defend this with it just being like one space wide here? That seems really rough. Even though this tank won't die, like what is Starduster going to do with it? He's got this recon I didn't recognize. And a tank on the defensive side. So like, yeah, now this tank gets to shoot at this one. That's not exactly like... They both get to fire on that tank afterwards. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should use the damage calculator to find out how bad this is. So it's at 3 HP. And if I swap and I use an 8 HP, wait. It's just gonna do like 2 damage. Yeah, that hurts. This doesn't seem that good. Maybe this 4 HP tank will make a big difference, but it doesn't seem like it will. Two tanks in a base skip. That's really... I think that this happened on the other replay that I was watching as well, and I think that I never made this play in my game. And it's important to recognize when you're able to do this without giving up tempo. I don't think that I don't think that I'm close to being able to recognize when I can do this without giving up tempo. But seeing a game like this seeing games like these where players are willing to do this is important. Raahka is only 2 units up, which is basically just the first turn advantage. And maybe it's the knowledge of this tank being like this tank is like dead basically, and this recon is basically dead, that allows Raahka to make that decision. Okay, so this isn't as bad as I thought it could be. Because he's not interested in getting the first strike on this full health tank. Still, isn't Raahka just gonna like move this onto the base? Oh yeah, well... I didn't refresh the page. Don't tell Walker. Yeah, like this doesn't... I'm a little surprised that Raahka wouldn't move one of these infantry. I can't check their move ranges. Maybe I'll have to refresh the page. I'm surprised that Raahka didn't move these infantry behind the capping one in front of it, so that it was like I suppose this is a better formation for counterattack. The other one is more vulnerable because if you put 2... Well, I mean, I don't know. This flat formation is harder to attack, probably. You can hit any of these once. As if you put 2 up here, then you get 2 attacks on one infantry and one will die. The only one that you can get 2 attacks on here is this one. You have to go through two attacks on each of these infantry before you get to the one that's capping. And even if this doesn't cap in 2 turns, it's going to succeed eventually just because of the sheer number of infantry in this area. So I don't think it's possible to stop it. I don't think you have enough attacks for that. Um, here, I'm gonna do this. I've never done this before. Okay. There, no spoilers. How about that? Are pretty clever. Can we see these? Yeah. Okay, so these are hurting. This is a little bit of a scary situation for Raahka. It feels like there's nothing in the center for him. That recon can just kind of go around and do stuff. Okay, Starduster recombines the tanks. That's not so bad. Get a 7 HP tank and an 8 HP tank. So you trade some unit count and go a little bit negative on HP, but well, no, he didn't go that negative on it's not. I don't know. I forgot about this 1 HP tank. It's okay. Starduster kills the infantry on the mountain. Slow commitment. Stops the cap. Oh, we got a battlecopter in response AA. Okay, so these tanks get to do whatever they want because this wall of infantry has prevented the counter tanks from getting through to them. That's really interesting. This defensive formation of Starduster is mirrored by this defensive formation of Raahka. These are too far back. These weren't actually defending this. These are just forcing these tanks out. And these tanks don't actually like being in this position. I guess that's somewhat significant. Huh. He's moved back into a more tight wall. They went out and they did what they needed to do, and then they came back. That's something to think about. Moving forward and backwards like that is also something that I need to really think about, like when to return to a defensive position. So Starduster starts capping this. This does force a response. I thought that I had selected 2 moves. It's this. The cap is the second move. Why not kill this? Raahka does have an income lead. This forces some sort of response. I would think that this will kill. This has got to kill. Yeah. But I mean, I suppose it doesn't even matter. It kind of does, because this tank can make that attack, and then these two tanks can kill this infantry. And then all these tanks will come out and kill them. Then this infantry group will move up into the HQ. That's why that's not that's why that's not a sufficient defense to stop this. This seems really, really hard to deal with. On the other hand, this... Why is it that this feels like a much better offensive position than this? One reason is... So one thing to consider is that Raahka is going to capture this outside property, which will even the income difference if he loses this. Otherwise, Raahka may also capture this, which will put him in the lead. But this isn't guaranteed by any means. This is actually relatively easy to stop, at least for one turn. But he'd have to give up a tank to do that. Starduster would have to give up a tank to stop this. If Raahka wanted to stop this, he would only have to give up like an infantry. He could have given up this infantry, I believe, already to stop that completely. Even if Starduster was able to take this, or to force a big reaction, the punishment seems a little bit more limited. There's this 9 HP tank. Well, it'll be 10 HP by the time that a punishment happens if it stays here. I don't think so. I don't know. We'll give it a wash. I really want to understand that position, though. Okay, so Starduster does completely stop this. And he goes even further to take out all of the infantry that were defending that position. This seems decent. Until next turn, I suppose, when these tanks come in. Starduster seems a little bit more thinly spread. For better or for worse. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And this capture is guaranteed. Just like that. This battlecopter seems to be putting in work. Capture is stopped without sacrificing anything, really. It's a really good artillery position. Where did that artillery even come from? It was on the capital. On the HQ, rather. That's a really good artillery position. Okay. This is a pretty good spot for a mech. Okay, so this can't really be part of a counterattack. It's just got to be like these 3 tanks. And they'll probably do decent. But then if it's these 3 tanks, then they've got to deal. They'll kill this, I assume. Can they? Not without exposing themselves to the mech. And the mech and 2 tanks are going to punish. It's going to be weird. It's going to be weird. That's smart. He threw away the 3 HP tank to make the to get the 10 HP tank down to 8. And here's the haymaker. Could have done the haymaker first. Would have been a little bit better. Wow, that is a lot of damage. Okay, those tanks just got deleted. These infantry are just getting deleted. This mech did not get deleted. Wow. This is so much damage that's getting dealt. That's a real significant. That's a 5 HP recon that did all that damage. 4 damage to an artillery. It's nuts. Raahka counter supers. Okay, so this seemed pretty necessary to stop this cap. Doesn't quite kill the infantry, but doesn't really matter either. Okay, that's a really far move. That's like from downtown. It's 2 movement, I believe. Bonus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 2 bonus move lets this tank go all the way from downtown into killing the other tank. That's a big deal. Can kind of sort this out a little bit. Okay, so eliminates the capture threat in the center of the map. It's doing a really good job of, like, these horizontal lines here are way better. If you can defend here, that's a lot better than defending back here, if you can. So on the other side of the map, Raahka has done what he can. Still seems a little suspect. Yeah, those tanks are just no joke. I suppose the net worth difference is just because all these tanks are super hurt. That's big. This is really annoying. Seriously limits the movement of all these vehicles. It's not like they can move that far anyways. And they're just non-stop brawling. But it seems like the right side of the map is where the action is. Okay, Starduster's got a lot of stuff back in order, but this damaged anti-air and this damaged tank are kind of big deals. It feels like he's giving up a lot of this part of the map. Man, this is actually like really sad. Most COs aren't willing to swing a tank, a full HP tank onto a full HP mech when the mech's on the mountain. generally it's not a good trade. And even here, it might not numerically have been a good trade, but I know that it's taking a lot more damage because of the fact that it belongs to Grimm. 10 to 10. It's gonna do, yeah, so it even didn't do the maximum amount of damage that it could have done. It could have done 7 damage instead of just 6. But like, yeah, other COs are taking far less damage. I mean, they're gonna be able to like see, this is just like not good numbers if it's any other CO. But for whatever reason, Grimm, this feels especially bad with, or especially sad for Grimm. This does way more damage. A counterattack is just not as significant. They're moving up. This was, obviously Starduster was really counting on that that tank on that port to do more work. You combine a bunch of stuff into it. There's not a whole lot that can challenge these 5 tanks. These 5 tanks are gonna, like, see these 2 tanks that are all like right by Starduster HQ. They're basically obligated to come and fight these infantry. If they don't, then these infantry are getting on the HQ. There's nothing over here that Starduster has that can really contest the massive tanks that Raahka has put into the center. And Starduster does just give up. That's really cool replay. I feel like I'm getting it. I hope I'm getting it. Where was it? It was turn 10, right? I'm not sure. I think that this, like, turn, like, 4 through 5 is probably, like, the stuff that I need to really be focused on. Like, it's not obvious when you should be going for comm towers and when you should be going for these outside properties and when you should be going for these inside properties. Something that was valuable is the play from the city near HQ forward and then inside. That's a big deal. Moving an early infantry from the aggressive base onto the very, very forward city on the outside of the map. That's something that I should be doing. Both of these players did it. It worked out. I don't even think that this was like necessarily poor for Starduster. Forcing this defensive side tank first is something that is significant. I'm just not sure that I'm not sure how well that worked out with what's going on with the rest of the map. Maybe I'll need to get a bigger sample size, like revisit that replay with Jack's Raptor or something. But it was really cool to watch. These big horizontal defensive formations are neat. It's something like I've never had like a mid game where I just have like all my infantry in the same place like this, and that's obviously really good. So I need to be thinking about how to move my infantry into a position like that as I transition out of the cap phase. That's it for today. Like I said, I've been slowing down. I'm gonna probably re-edit. I'm gonna probably do like a scripted edited version of my lesson 0 video about not giving up. I think there's good content there, but I think that I hadn't organized it properly because it was the first video that I'd done on Advance Wars. I'm playing a bunch of Z games. If anybody wants to play, just like challenge me on AWBW, I guess. There's the subscriber tournament. I'm like 15 subscribers away from 100. I really want to get that launched, so please pass me around to your friends. We'll get this thing going. It'll be really exciting. Going to be quite a bit of money on the line. It'll be really neat. If you didn't like the coordinates thing that I added, let me know about that. I thought that it would be useful. We can talk about coordinates. I can talk about specific parts of the map. It's easier to see because it's larger than the standard coordinate marker. I don't think I'll have to mess around with it a whole lot depending on the size of the map. I'm pretty sure that it stays the same place on the screen generally, so maybe it won't be too much of a pain for me to maintain. I have a couple more ideas for like edited content, scripted content, outside of just the lesson 0 video being redone. I have like maybe some mini lessons that I could look at. This might have been one if I had looked at multiple replays. I could have looked at the replays that I lost, but I didn't think that there was a whole lot of sense in doing that. I think that I understand pretty well what went wrong. Maybe I'm wrong now. Maybe I should look at them again. Either way, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for liking my channel. Thanks for watching my videos. If you guys have any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, good luck.